Batman has many villains, and one of his most well-known enemies is Basil Karlo, aka Clayface. He is known for his history in acting and his shape-shifting abilities. He first appeared in Detective Comics issue 40 in 1940. He was introduced as a B-list actor who chose a life of crime using the identity of a villain that he had portrayed in a horror movie. But what made him the way he is? Welcome to the Psychology of Clayface. Clayface has many origins, so we'll start at the beginning. The Golden Age. Basil Karlo was an actor who starred in a horror movie named Dread Castle. He was driven mad when he heard they were remaking the movie and he wouldn't play the lead. He adopted the persona of Clayface, the villain of one of his movies, and he targeted the cast and crew. After Clayface took his revenge on the crew of the Dread Castle remake, he was captured by Batman and Robin and sent to prison. This is where he met Sandra Fuller, aka Lady Clay, who is a shapeshifter. They formed an alliance with Matthew Hagen, aka Clayface 2, and Preston Payne, who is also known as Clayface 3. Matthew Hagen once fell in a pool of chemicals, giving him shape-shifting abilities. Preston Payne tried to cure his illness using Matthew's DNA, which led to him transforming into an acidic melting creature who needed to wear a hazmat suit at all times. They called themselves the Mud Pack and wanted to defeat Batman. Of course, it didn't work. However, Basil managed to imbue himself with abilities such as Preston and Lady Clay. As usual, DC did their timey-wimey stuff which impacted the origin of Clayface. Starting the New 52, Basil Karlo is shown growing up as a poor kid no one looks at. He's not special. He tries to change his look but with no success. His mother tells him to just be himself, and he questions if that's good enough. Basil persisted and purchased Renew from Oswald Cobblepot. Renew or Renu is an illegal cosmetic that can cause flesh to be melted and molded like clay. Users of Renu need a constant supply to avoid disfigurement. Basil had to use this shape-shifting to act as a penguin's agent. Unfortunately, the substance affected his mental health, which resulted in an outbreak on set, which led to Basil being blacklisted from the movie industry. This turned Basil into Clayface and made him turn to a life of crime. During DC Rebirth, they changed his origin again to fit a bit more with the original story. So the new canon origin is that Basil was the son of a horror makeup artist named Vincent Karlo. Vincent used Renu to create his effects. Once this was found out, Vincent was fired because it's an illegal substance. Basil grew up to be a beloved actor who just landed the role of a lifetime. Sadly, his father passed away and he had to learn of his passing over the phone while driving. This led to Basil getting into an horrific accident which left him disfigured. Because he wanted to keep his career, he sought his father's stash of Renu and used it to recreate his old appearance. Because he needed to use Renu constantly, he used his shape-shifting and acting skills to break into Daggett Industries to steal more of the substance. He got apprehended by Batman, who brought him to the hospital to recover. Subsequently, Basil's appearance was revealed to the world in a news report of the incident. This ruined his career and he got dumped by his girlfriend Glory. Basil Karlo eventually decided to break into the evidence room where the police were holding a stash of Renu. The police opened fire, which shattered multiple bottles of Renu which fell onto Basil's body. This incident transformed him into the shape-shifting villain known as Clayface. He then attacked the set of the film he was fired from. Clayface is a known villain. We see this in the comics, the live-action universe, the animated universe, the Arkham universe, but he did actually join the Bat family. Basil was staying at Arkham Asylum until he heard of a re-release of his last movie, The Metamorphosis. He broke out to go and see that movie. Inevitably, he was confronted by Batman and Batwoman. Although they didn't fight him, instead they invited him to join the Gotham Knights. Batman found out that when Clayface transforms, the distance between the synapses in his brain expands, making it so he cannot tell right from wrong. So they offered to cure him while fighting crime. Basil fought for justice. For example, after Gotham was at risk of flooding due to a hurricane, Clayface split himself into hundreds of police officers to evacuate the citizens. During his crime-fighting era, he became particularly close with Cassandra Cain, whom he taught acting tricks to. He also became close with Dr. Victoria October. She's an ally of Batman and was working on a cure for Clayface's condition. When Hugo Strange infected Gotham with a monster serum, Clayface gathered samples for Victoria to experiment on and create a cure. However, Clayface was also exposed to the serum, causing him to go mad and go on a rampage. Batwoman eventually shot him with a specialized lethal bullet. Victoria managed to create a cure and Cassandra delivered it to Clayface. He regained his humanity in his final moments before passing away next to Cassandra Cain. Of course, it's comics, so somehow Clayface returned and was healed by Dr. Leslie Tompkins. Basil chose to leave Gotham and he said his goodbyes to Cassandra and Victoria. When villains get admitted to Arkham Asylum, they usually get a diagnosis. Or at least that's the case in the Arkham universe. According to the Batman Arkham City wiki page, Dr. Penelope Young diagnosed Basil with a borderline personality disorder or BPD. Borderline personality disorder affects the way people feel about themselves and others. They tend to have unstable and intense relationships, usually with a fear of abandonment. This can cause mood swings and anger. They can be impulsive and experience extreme emotions. Their impulsiveness may lead them to push others away. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders describes BPD as a pervasive pattern of instability of interpersonal relationships, self-image and affects, and marked impulsivity beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts, as indicated by 5 or more of the following symptoms. Frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment, a pattern of unstable and intense interpersonal relationships characterized by alternating between extremes of idealization and devaluation, identity disturbance, markedly and persistently unstable self-image or sense of self, so they have an unclear self-image and often feel shame about who they are. They may make dramatic changes in their self-image, like changing goals or careers. This can also be seen when they self-sabotage, like failing a test on purpose or pushing people away. They can sabotage their own progress. Then, impulsivity in at least 2 areas that are potentially self-damaging, such as spending, sex, substance abuse, reckless driving, or binge eating. Recurrent suicidal behavior, gestures or threats or self-mutilating behavior. Unstable emotions due to a marked reactivity of mood such as intense dysphoria, irritability or anxiety that usually lasts a few hours, chronic feelings of emptiness, inappropriate intense anger or difficulty controlling anger, and transient stress-related paranoid ideation or severe dissociative symptoms such as hallucinations and body image distortions. Dr. Penelope Young noted that it was a symptom of identity disturbance that convinced her to diagnose him with this disorder. She wrote that he was difficult to pin down on any subject and defends his wild changes in effect as evidence of his dramatic abilities. She also stated that his identity is at risk of splintering due to the growing frequency of him adopting the identities of others to the exclusion of taking on his own. It is true that in the Arkhamverse, we rarely see Clayface in his original form. In Arkham Asylum, we see him as Warden Quincy Sharp, Jim Gordon, and as Aaron Cash. In Arkham City, we mainly see him as the Joker. It's not until the final battle that he shows his Clay form. In Suicide Squad Isekai, he also tends to use a more human form rather than Clay. Another symptom I recognize in Clayface is his anger. In Batman The Dark Knight Volume 2, Issue 23.3, Basil's career is ruined because of his temper. He got critiqued on set by the director, and he punched him in the face. Once he became the criminal Clayface, he was about to rob a bank and wanted to make a detour to rob jewelry stores as well. Some thugs who came along resisted. Clayface reacted by taking them out. The whole comic is filled with stories of Clayface lashing out. In the story, he even says, "It wasn't always like this. Back before I was Clayface, back when I was Basil Karlo, I was on the way to the top. Red carpet movie premieres, million-dollar mansions, fast cars, beautiful women, and that was just the start. I had big plans. I had ambition. I also had a temper. When people pissed me off, when people insulted me, people got hurt. That ain't never changed. I don't figure it's ever gonna. My entire career went down the drain after I hit that director. They took my life away. So I became Clayface to get revenge. Still had the big plans, still had the ambition, and more than anything else, I still had that temper." The last symptom that is pretty clear in Clayface is his impulsivity. He doesn't seem to hesitate when it comes to taking the Renu, which endangered him and led to his demise. The other symptoms require more knowledge on the character, his thoughts, feelings, and relationships. So, could he have borderline personality disorder? Sure. Do I agree with that diagnosis? I'm not so sure. I do believe he is impulsive and angry. I'm not so sure about the identity disturbance. In the Arkhamverse, yeah, he plays many different roles there, but in general, it depends. Having a disturbed identity can be identified by drastic changes, while Clayface's identity is relatively stable. He is and always has been passionate about acting. His goals are to be successful and known, no matter the cost. Heck, he took illegal cosmetics just to be handsome. The one big change Clayface did make was trading his life of crime for a position in the Bat family, or at least the Gotham Knights. He really did do a 180 there. So does Clayface suffer from identity disturbance? Maybe. Outside of the Arkham games, we do see Clayface in his regular monstrous form, and he just uses his shapeshifting abilities to get what he wants. In the New 52 Batman issue 19 and 20, it was revealed that he even absorbs the DNA of the people he pretends to be. The side effect is that it makes him lose his original DNA. After shapeshifting into Bruce Wayne, Batman identifies a sample of Basil's blood in which this information is revealed. Batman eventually traps him into a panic chamber that can only be unlocked by Basil Karlo's DNA, which doesn't exist anymore. Because I don't fully believe he suffers from a borderline personality disorder, I came up with a differential hypothesis. I believe Basil Karlo or Clayface relates more to the criteria of a histrionic personality disorder, also known as a theatrical personality disorder. The histrionic personality disorder is a pervasive pattern of excessive emotionality and attention-seeking, beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts, as indicated by 5 or more of the following symptoms. They're uncomfortable in situations in which you're not the center of attention. Interaction with others is often characterized by inappropriate sexually seductive or provocative behavior. Displays rapidly shifting and shallow expression of emotions. Consistently uses physical appearance to draw attention to self. Has a style of speech that is excessively impressionistic and lacking in detail. Shows self-dramatization, theatricality, and exaggerated expression of emotion, is suggestible or easily influenced by others or circumstances, and considers relationships to be more intimate than they actually are. In general, people with a histrionic personality disorder are flamboyant, emotional, and they seek attention. They tend to be overly concerned with their appearance and use their appearance to draw attention. Now, there is some overlap between a histrionic and borderline personality disorder. First of all, there is comorbidity. This means that it's perfectly possible for someone to suffer from both. Second, they are both cluster B personality disorders. Here's a little side note. Personality disorders are classified in 3 clusters, cluster A, B, and C. Each cluster contains personality disorders with overlapping symptoms. Cluster B disorders tend to make a person erratic. They have difficulty regulating their emotions and behavior. The first criteria notes that someone with this disorder feels uncomfortable when they're not the center of attention. As I mentioned earlier, in the Golden Age, Basil turned to crime because he wasn't cast as the main character in the remake of a movie he had starred in before. Basil wanted to be famous. One common factor in all his stories is that he turned to crime and vengeance when he was pushed aside or fired from the movie industry. We can argue if that's him seeking attention or him trying to be a successful actor. I can't say for sure, but we do know it makes him so uncomfortable and angry that he makes bad choices. In the New 52, it is shown that he does love the attention he got once he became an actor. The second criteria states that they are sexually seductive or provocative. Comics usually don't go there, but there is one TV show that does, and that is the Harley Quinn animated series. I wouldn't call Clayface sexually seductive, but in Season 1 Episode 5 titled Being Harley Quinn, he does make a remark that is first interpreted as sexual. He reunites with his team and, while they're hugging, he says that he is hard. The team backs off and he corrects himself by saying that it's his leg that's becoming hard. Other criteria I recognize in Clayface are consistently using physical appearance to draw attention to himself, having a style of speech that is excessively impressionistic, and showing self-dramatization, theatricality, and exaggerated expression of emotion. Clayface is a dramatic person. He acts theatrical in his movements and his speech. This becomes abundantly clear in both the Harley Quinn show and Suicide Squad isekai. He exaggerates almost everything just for the act. A perfect example is in the Suicide Squad isekai anime. Here, Amanda Waller detonates the bomb she placed in his head. Clayface does the whole act of being dead when he actually can't die by exploding a single body part. When asked why he joined the mission if he is basically free to go, he states that every story needs a protagonist, which is him. He is the main character. The same can be said about Clayface in Arkham City. Right before his boss fight, Batman mentions that Basil wasn't even supposed to go to Arkham City. Clayface replies that he willingly came simply because he got to play the Joker, which is the role of a lifetime. Basil also uses his appearance to draw attention. In fact, it's his one superpower. He uses his shapeshifting abilities to get what he wants and as a manipulation tactic. For example, after Damian Wayne passed away, he made himself look like Damian to manipulate and hurt Batman. His appearance is of great importance to him. He was a handsome actor. In order to keep his career, he used Reno to maintain his looks. In later iterations, he became a villain when his true form was shown to the public and he lost his job as an actor. There are some symptoms that I cannot seem to relate to Clayface, such as him having shallow emotions, being easily influenced, and interpreting relationships as more intimate than they are. People with histrionic personality disorder tend to experience mood swings while those emotions are shallow. Clayface has a lot of anger inside of him, and for good reason. I wouldn't call that shallow. Although he did turn to a life of crime with seemingly a lack of remorse towards his victims. A perfect quote to corroborate this is from Detective Comics Volume 1, Issue 607, in which he says, "Mad? Oh yes, the traditional accusation. And next you'll be telling me it's all because I'm misunderstood. All the great monsters were misunderstood. Mr. Hyde, Frankenstein's creation, Dracula, the Golem, all of them. But not me. Not Basil Karlo. Not the ultimate Clayface. My intentions will be clear from the start. I will take what I want, when I want it. And any who stand in my way shall burn." It's his world and we're just living in it. This is also why I don't believe Clayface is susceptible. He seems to just be focused on himself and his own mission, regardless of what anyone else wants, unless it aligns with his own will. When Clayface worked with Batman, Batman did tell him what to do, and Basil just did it. But I don't think it was because Batman influenced him. I believe that was what Clayface truly wanted. Lastly, when it comes to relationships, I can't seem to find any evidence of Basil being in any type of relationship and seeing it as something more intimate than it actually is. Basil Karlo was once a proud and famous actor who was obsessed with his looks and image. He always wanted to be greater. He wanted to be the best. He was searching for the role of a lifetime and was willing to mold himself into something else, however unstable it may be. One other character who can come across as vain is Batman's own son, Damian Wayne. So if you are interested in the psychology of Damian Wayne, I suggest you watch this video next. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!